Hey, yeah, hi. I was on mute actually.
No worries.
So
So
great.
if
I
you can
think
just introduce and set the context, that'll be great.
yes. So first of all, thanks everyone to be in this third SIG webinar which we are conducting, and we see every time when we are doing it has been increasing. So the overall idea of creating this HR SIG was to make sure that we talk about the HR topics, and also the extend it to SF success factors customers who want to know in and around of the SAP SF ecosystem. So we have been doing some in the earlier sessions, we have been doing some kind of transformation journeys from some of the customers, and we also showcase some of the partner apps. So this time again, as a one of the session, we are planning to bring Eightfold, who is one of the endorsed partner with Success Factors and SAP, where they are using how they are using AI in SF scenarios, and we will also talk about some of the customer stories in today's session. So welcome Dev, who is joined from US, right? I think Dev, Ashish, David, and Camelia from outside India, and Ashish, who is based out of in Gurgaon, have been joining this session. So look forward for a fruitful session to all our customers, and have a great session today.
So before you can hand it over to Dave to take it away, I think we have people from 5 different time zones in today's meeting. So which also
Great.
goes on to show how global we have become as an ecosystem. So a quick question just to set context. At the bottom you have chat functionality. So at any point in time, if you have any question, please use the chat functionality and ask those questions. The session is being recorded. The slides and the recording will be shared with everyone who's on the call for sure. At the end of the session, we'll also have a small quick poll and also have time for Q&A. So please keep putting your questions as they occur to you on the chat, so that at the end we don't forget any questions and we kind of address each one of them as we go along. And with that, maybe if I can ask Dave, if you can just quickly introduce yourself and take it away.
Sure. Absolutely.
I think
Thank you, Mukesh.
introduce
Thank
the
you,
team as
Delighten.
well. Hey, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. So Mukesh, Delighten, thank you so much, and thank you for this opportunity to present this morning to your team members and the group out there. The introduction that Mukesh and Delighten just gave, I am Dave Ghosh. I manage global alliances and channels at Eightfold. And of course, this really, really important global partnership with Success Factors. We're literally engaged in all the different continents and regions at a global level. And we'll talk a little bit about the partnership and how we've extended that beyond Success Factors into other parts of SAP. I personally live in San Francisco, California, and that's where the company is headquartered, out of a city called Mountain View. And along with me presenting is Ashish Mediratta. He's the Vice President for Talent Transformation. He's based out of New Delhi, India. And one key thing to note about Ashish is that he was until recently the head of HR and talent acquisition at Tata Communications, which is based out of India. So he has some very interesting stories to kind of share with you guys about the success of Eightfold along with Success Factors. Also presenting is David Petkus. He's our head of value consulting group, and he will talk about how we deliver the best business outcomes, for our customers. Very interesting stories he wants to share with you guys, and he's based out of Florida. It is 1:30 in the morning for him. So David, thank you so much for joining in so late. And then we also have Camelia. She's our senior solutions engineer based out of Munich, Germany, and she will be showing you a live demo of the platform and the AI in action, right? And also we have Anil Dadwal. He is the head of sales, for APJ, and he'll also be on standby to answer a lot of the questions that you might have. about all our initiatives and efforts as we are kind of expanding into this whole Asia Pacific region. And like Mukesh said, very global in nature, this whole team was assembled, for the session for you guys. So just some housekeeping, like Mukesh said, you know, uh, please go ahead and put any questions on the chat. We do want to make this session interactive. So if you feel like, interjecting at any point of time, please feel free to do so. However, we will answer your questions on the chat as well as, at the end, like Mukesh mentioned, we'll also have a Q&A session. And one quick thing about Camelia's demo, it is a live demo, with live data and a live instance. So this is not a dummy platform that she'll be showing to you. So you will really see the AI at work, and of course, very, very live, right? And that'll be followed by Ashish. And let me just show the agenda to you, how we'll link this out. So Ashish will talk about the real life success story and the use case, how Eightfold is being used, integrated with success factors to get the best business outcomes. And then David, who will actually walk you through the art and science of how we ensure, best business outcomes, for our customers, right? So with that, let's get to, at least the introduction part before we get onto the demo about why Eightfold and who is Eightfold, right? And I think to get there, let's talk about at least some of the various personas and the dynamics in play in the war for talent out there, right? And literally how really these components that they relate and then how it maps to the Eightfold solution, and how the AI and the sophisticated AI platform that we have built, how the real world benefits by this fully optimized platform. So it's really important to kind of go through some of these pillars, and some of those elements to understand the technology and the science behind it. So if you look at the individual, in this whole personas approach out here, so we all live in a very hyper personalized world today, right? I mean, we wake up in the morning and we go through the curated, content for news, the social media connects, and a lot more than that. We today ask Google a question, and very unlike in the beginning days when you would ask something and it would just typically give you, one answer. Now it starts really giving you a lot of options, makes a lot of recommendations, and learns from your, behavior to start, kind of giving you the right kind of recommendation that makes more sense to you, right? So it's a very, very hyper personalized world. And also, to highlight, some of the individual behavior out here. Today's individuals don't really work for the same company all their life, right? And the research out there says that, they literally have 11 jobs, by the time, they get to 50. So it's a very different world the individual lives in, right? And again, I'm not going to go through all the bullet points, but the key thing from the individual persona is that the expectations have changed, the demands have changed, and hyper personalization and really the self-service is becoming the key aspects of the market out there. Then if you go to the enterprise, the organizations are really encountering a massive data overload, right? 9x data in just last 2 years, right? And just mining this data and slicing and dicing it, getting meaningful analysis for effective action is becoming more and more critical, right? And that's another key aspect of what we'll show you of how Eightfold really tackles that. Add to that fact that this continuous changes in business and digital transformation, it also, kind of the skills acquired, by the individuals, is not really valid for more than 2.5 to 3 years on average, as per the research. So what they learned in really the school or colleges, just does not survive, the lifetime anymore. And that requires a lot of the reskilling and upskilling to keep up with the changes in the way that employers really run the business, right? The other key aspect of the enterprise is that diversity is really becoming, a very key, aspect of all the organizations, and especially the CEOs who are being held, accountable and responsible, to really deliver, more diversity to organizations, and also to remove bias, in the process. So all in all, the data understanding, because the whole overload of data is key from an enterprise perspective. And again, we'll show you, how Eightfold kind of, really tackles with that. On the workforce, the demographics is also changing very rapidly. Millennials have already taken over. I mean, they're a huge part of the workforce out there. And of course, they bring their own set of expectations, their own set of demands. And of course, they're also very impatient when things just don't happen at the right time. At the same time, Gen Z is also taking over. And as per the research, again, 50% of the workforce, by 2030, will be, in the Gen Z category. And because of, the changing business environment, a couple of other, key aspects for you to look at. 50% of the contingent workforce by 2025, right? That's another, key parameter out here. And the fact that, there's also a talent shortage in the market. There is the need for really agile scales, right? And people with multiple role deployments, that's also becoming a need, from the workforce perspective. So essentially, the agility of the talent is also key, and we'll show you how we really tackle that, with inferred and adjacent skills as we look at it. Then, of course, we go to the whole recent COVID-19 crisis, where, of course, we all know that, there's a huge, employment or unemployment impact because of that. In the US, obviously it's already crossed, I think, 15% or reaching almost 20% unemployment. People are being laid off or they're being furloughed. And that's definitely causing a lot of, pain and suffering, even for the employers who still need to keep their business running, right? So the need for really looking at the talent internally to reskill them or upskill them is becoming, even more primary. So that's some of the pillars out here, that we look at when we also look at, the platform, and you will see some of those elements being addressed as we look into how AI can tackle that. Talking about the explosion of data, I'm just giving you a kind of a illustration and a landscape of what it looks like. So there's not only a lot of data during each of those, kind of the employee life cycle, but it also leads to a lot of point solutions that companies are bringing in, right? So you have all kinds of job boards and social media like LinkedIn or Monster. You have active sourcing tools, or you have, the typical keyword or Boolean search screening tools, or you have chatbots. And of course, you're looking at, leaders like, success factors with applicant tracking system or HR systems. And I think one thing I would like to point out, one key point solution that seems to be a common thread everywhere, spreadsheets, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But this causes, a lot of issues around, how do you really, kind of mine this data? How do you really, handle so many point solution? And is it really possible to manage all of that with this whole, plethora of tools out there? And how, a holistic platform can actually make a better use of this, this whole mass out there, the mass solutions out there in the market. Now let's look at another lens out here, which is also going to be equally critical as we show you how we deal with this whole talent life cycle. So if you look at, from very inception, where you're trying to attract talent, through your job portals, where you see a lot of the candidates dropping off because they just are not able to find the right job from all the different job descriptions, or they apply to the wrong job. So you literally see like a 80%, drop-off rate. Going from that to a recruiter persona, where when you're trying to evaluate candidates, you're looking at, very, very bad response rates, people who are not even the right fit because the engine was not able to screen and create the right kind of a pipeline, down to the hiring stage, where a lot of the people, they literally don't are not able to find a job within the company. They actually have a better time finding, or at least better luck finding job outside the company. So that's also key, in terms of really, kind of finding the right solution for that. Going to the upskill and reskill, the aspect that I just spoke about, people looking at internal mobility, really doing career planning within the organization. Obviously, nobody wants to leave the organization if they really have a clear line of sight as to what they're really, kind of growing towards, within the career and within the organization. And then, of course, trying to also keep in touch with the alumni, which is also a very important aspect as you try to build your talent network, which is going to kind of help you to find the right talent as your business grows and as your business transforms. Now, there are two other key important things that we want to bring up here, which you will see in action as to how do we solve it. One is incomplete resumes. I mean, let's face it, resumes are never complete. They're always going to be a timestamp on people applying for a certain job and literally putting the skills for that particular job. Nothing more, nothing less. If you go to LinkedIn, people hardly put information out there. So the resume is never a complete view of what the capability or what the ability, for the candidate is. And through Eightfold, we'll also show you, how we enrich those profiles. It also could be your passive, candidates sitting in your database, or people who applied, a couple of years back or 5 years back, and it tracks, what the candidate has achieved since then, and then try to make it, a complete resume, so we can start looking at beyond just the skills match, also look at, what the potential of the capability is. And then we also look at the job descriptions, which we always feel that if resumes are bad, the job descriptions are worse. Where literally, people just copy paste, job descriptions, and it never really is accurate, which also leads to a lot of the wrong matches, for the candidates who are trying to apply the jobs, and never really attracts the right person for the right job, right? And all of these pillars are going to be talked about. So that talks a little bit about, some of the pillars and the fundamentals of what really drove, Eightfold and the platform, and as it evolved uh, over the last, 3 years. The company is actually less than 3 years old, almost reaching 3 years now, but growing very, very fast, right? And one of the key aspects to mention here is that our founders, the two founders, they were instrumental in building the artificial intelligence, the personalization, and the recommendation engines for the likes of Google and YouTube and Facebook and Bloomreach, right? And they're literally, the top 10 AI experts in the world. If you Google them, you'll see more than 85 patents in their name. But more importantly, they decided that after the success, with these platforms, which is used by billions of people, they wanted to start a company with a mission. And I think I speak for myself and the team today on the call. We literally do feel that we are part of a mission than just really starting to, kind of do a job day in, day out. And the mission for the company is to literally find the right career for everyone in the world. That's what we have set out to do. And to do that, our founders, with, of course, the best AI engineers, in the office here in Mountain View, we have created a talent intelligence platforms that leverages the most sophisticated form of AI, which we call the deep learning network and the neural networks, which is, by the way, the technologies that you see on the likes of Google and YouTube, to really help organizations to transform, how they really hire, develop, and retain a diverse workforce, right? It's a very scalable platform, and we'll talk about, organizations using it globally. We do have offices all over the world. So we have, like you saw, we have a pretty, large international team today on the call, and we are growing really fast. And of course, we are very well funded, including by the likes of Capital One, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard. So this slide is really important because Camelia is going to show you a lot of this in action. It's really the heart and soul, of the neural network and the deep learning engine that we have built over the last 3 years. So what we have done is brought in more than 1 billion profiles on a global level. And if you look at the entire workforce of around 3 billion worldwide, we're talking almost approaching 50% of the workforce being, part of our model and algorithm that we have built around those resumes, right? And what we have also done, that we've not only brought in the resumes, we have actually gone to the World Wide Web, and we have enriched those profiles to make it up to date and add all the skills, all the capabilities that the system has been able to find. Now, add to that, we have also, brought in millions of job skills, titles, and university, school, and data to really create a dynamic taxonomy. And the reason why we say dynamic taxonomy is that when we actually integrate, with your ATS in the backend HRIS, the learnings from the ATS that is there, why were people hired? Why were they why were they rejected? All those learnings are also brought into our models and algorithms. So this taxonomy is constantly evolving and learning more and more, and not static in any nature. And using these models and algorithms, We actually bring in the information about the new candidate or the new applicant or the employee and plunk it down the algorithm. And even when we actually integrate with the customer ATS, we again go and enrich the profiles. And now, because we are looking at a lot of the inferred and adjacent skills, not just a regular keyword search or a Boolean search, we are looking at the whole deep learning platform. It goes beyond the skills and starts looking at the career trajectory of this applicants or candidates employees, looks beyond the skills into capabilities, and starts predicting things like the potential to succeed, or predict the next two roles for this individual, or the potential for this candidate to respond, or a potential for an employee that who is likely to leave. And all of that is done with 93% accuracy, which is only possible with a platform which is built on neural networks and deep learning. And of course, we spoke about the whole aspect of our founders having done hyper-personalization for the likes of Google and Facebook and YouTube. And of course, you will see in the UI, that it's all embedded, within this platform. Very quickly on the architecture stack, we do have 6 different modules, and this is another unique differentiator besides the deep learning and neural network. Is we look at talent holistically. We are not a point solution. We look at talent acquisition from external sources, with our acquisition module, and of course the AI based screening for stack, match, and rank. Looking at potential, not just giving you a regular match. We look at diversity and then use a masking engine. We'll show that to you in action too, which is a patented masking engine that we have, which also helps you to remove bias and increase diversity. We have a talent experience module, which works with the CSB, the success factors CSB recruitment marketing, to add the AI triggers on the job portals with a one-click application. Camille will show that to you also. And then of course we have internal mobility and the internal talent management, to help, for all the internal, kind of transfers or, people looking at career planning. And more importantly, I think in this COVID world, we're also looking at, the skills assessment and upskilling and reskilling as the employees start, kind of investing more and more in kind of growing their employees. We just added a virtual recruiting, obviously that's becoming a huge, offering for us and for the customers to take advantage of. Because of COVID, people are looking at social distancing and how to have more of the AI really come in when you're trying to do campus recruiting or job fairs and whatnot. And then we have another module called Talent Flex for the contingent labor, which also works with Fieldglass. So the key thing out here too is that we are AI experts. So we are the system of intelligence. We are dependent on SAP to really provide the best of class, and the best system of engagement, from an ATS perspective, or the HRIS, or Fieldglass for contingent labor. And we have also embedded Qualtrics for the experience management, while we take all the data, plunk it down our models and algorithms to really deliver, all that potential and the capability set. And that's how this whole platform works. We do not work as standalone. We have to integrate with the customer backend to really, provide the best business outcomes. So this works hand in hand with ATS, HRIS, VMS, and experience management tools with Qualtrics. Like Delighton said in the beginning, we are a very valued partner, with SuccessFactors ecosystem. We are one of the endorsed partner, and we had to go through very rigorous premium certification, both on the data, and the workflow integration. And we recently got the best partner, for Q1 award, for the number of opportunities, the number of joint customer success that we have done. Just to give you an idea about also our customer landscape, in a short, 3 years, we have more than 100 customers across 4 continents and 21 countries. You can see some of the very well-known logos, people like Heineken, our buyer, who is a very, big pharma company, American Express, and so on and so forth. AirAsia also, which I'm sure you guys are already aware of. And the ones that I have put on dotted line are all the joint customers that we have, and they're using, Eightfold, with SuccessFactors very successfully. Our engine is natural language processing. So it can process any language resumes. There is no restriction on that. It can even actually take Japanese and Chinese. And we have also done on the UI, based on customer requests, we have done 16 languages, including Spanish and Portuguese and German. And now because Bayer is going out, to China, Greater China, we're also looking at, adding the UI localization in Chinese, right? So very diverse, kind of client base, and of course, a lot of global implementation. Now, here's one more thing. When I spoke about the dynamic taxonomy, all these customers, their information, we obviously do not retain any resumes or any data, but we purge it right away. But the learnings from the integration with these customers comes into our, our model and algorithms. So as we go through more and more customer implementation, you actually get the benefit of those learnings and the more powerful engine that keeps on getting more and more powerful as it goes through some of these implementations out here. And of course, just to wrap up here, we like I said, we are very well integrated, with success factors, both on the recruiting, the recruitment marketing, like CSB, and also Employee Central and Career Succession module. And I already mentioned to you about the premium certification that we have, and fully certified by success factors. So I think I'll stop here from the introduction perspective. And Camelia, I think I'll stop sharing. And while Camelia brings up the platform and her presentation, any questions before we go forward? I don't know, Anil or Ashish, are you getting a lot of chats already?
Not much questions on the chat, but we really want to say that if you have any questions, please feel free to post them on the chat. And as Mukesh and Delighten has mentioned, please do introduce yourself if you haven't done as yet. We will try to answer as many questions as possible on the chat, and we also have some time at the end to answer your questions.
Great. Thanks, Anil. All right, Camelia, can you share? Are you sharing? Oh, there you go. We can see your screen. Camelia, we can hear you, I think.
Sorry, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, we can
Okay,
see.
perfect. So thank you so much for having me today. If you see me fumbling with my hair, it's because I cut it myself, so I hope it's not too bad. And my goal today is to take you through the demo. I will focus on two main points. The first point would be the integration with SAP SuccessFactors. So I will try to tell you whenever I can where that integration resides or options that we have around that. And then I will focus on three personas. The first persona will be the candidate persona on how you can enrich. Let me just go and show you this. How you can enrich your functionality of the career site builder using the Eightfold AI. And the three transactions that we will be looking at will be the matching for candidates, how easy it is for them to apply. And a lot of my customers like to use a more conversational way to do that using a chatbot. Well, why is that important and what are the moments that matter in this context? Well, in addition to intelligence and speed of the process for the candidates, the hyper-personalization, so everything that they will see online is targeted to them and their profile. So it's good for the candidates, but you will also make your recruiters happy because you increase conversion and you increase relevance. So candidates who are actually good matches for the jobs will apply. We also noticed that diversity will increase, meaning that women particularly tend to qualify themselves out. So by showing them that they're great matches for a particular job, will encourage them to actually apply. So that will be the first persona. Then the second persona will be the recruiter persona that we're going to take a look at. And the third will be an employee persona from a talent management, development, and retention perspective. But let's first of all start with our first persona, that of a candidate. So let me show you all of this in action. And I am going to go onto my platform, and there's various options to start this transaction. And a typical one would be you as a SuccessFactors SAP customer, you might already have a career site that you like and that you have created using a CSV, and it has all the functionality that you need so far. And this is a typical example of how that could look. This is actually a demo career site. I can search for jobs. I can, read some content. I can browse by business unit. But once I find my job, I am not really sure, am I a good match for this job or not? For that, we have this candidate assistant. So this is the intelligence bit that we can plug into your career site. Or as I said, we can use a more conversational way to do that. And that will be our chatbot, Amy. By the way, she's fully configurable and multilingual, so she can speak multiple languages. And you can use one of these capabilities or both of them in combination. Let's for today showcase that using Amy, the chatbot. And she's asking me, and you'll see what she can help me with. And as I said, this is also fully configurable. So for this particular example, I will have her help me find a job for myself. So here I go. I want to find a job for myself. She says, hey, good to hear. She's looking for my location. So as you see, I'm somewhere in Germany. And I say, yes, look for jobs at my location. She says, I don't have any jobs at your location right now. But why don't you upload your resume so I can match you to jobs? Let's do that. So here I am. I can drag and drop my resume into this box, or I can select the file. So let me go and just do that for a second. So I have it here on my desktop. I will use Daniela's resume. By the way, we're fully GDPR compliant, so we have to agree to the privacy policy. That will be our customer's privacy policy, obviously. So that in this scenario, the resume is being parsed onto the platform and instantly matched to available jobs. As of this point in time, the experience is fully personalized to the resume and to that job the person is seeing online. So here we go. The platform tells me you're a great match, a strong match for this particular job. And it doesn't only tell me that I'm a great match, it also tells me why. So here's the, the strong match because of I'm the top 15 of applicants for this job. I have the relevant experience, fashion design experience that is required for that job, the matching skills for that particular job, but also more information about the company. So this is a great way for our customers to showcase their company culture, so popular skills that they hire for, but also, what's the average experience of people in that company? So I have a pretty good overview of how long do people stay with the company as an average, then also other roles that they're hiring for, previous employers that they have been hiring from, people that I might work with. This is a very interesting one, as people can actually be ambassadors for their company. Other similar jobs that I might be a good match for, as you've seen, I looked for jobs at my location. These are at other locations, but I might still be a good match. So if I'm mobile and willing to relocate, that might be a good option for me. Any additional content that is relevant for me in this context, such as videos, blog posts, and things like perks, benefits for that particular location and job. So you'll see this hyper personalization very targeted to the job and the candidate. And as I said, this doesn't make it only easy and informative for the applicant, but you'll see that people would apply for jobs that they are actually strong matches for. So it increases relevance for your recruiters and sourcers for that matter as well. Once I have found the job or the jobs, and I'm saying the jobs because we have this job cart option, so you can add to cart and apply to multiple jobs simultaneously. So once I found them, I can go and apply for this job. Now, once you have the candidate click apply, you can determine to send them back to your ATS platform, SuccessFactors, and have them go through the application process there. Or alternatively, as you see here, map the screening questions that you might have on your ATS platform to have the candidate answer them here and then do the synchronization. The goal is to make it easy for them to apply, and it can be as easy as a one-click apply. So remember that the CV, the resume, has already been parsed with all the information that was on the CV, and I can just go and submit my application. I will get an info that says, hey, thank you for applying. Here are some other jobs that you're a good match for, so I can continue browsing and apply further. So a very easy, quick way to engage your candidates, personalize content for them. You make sure that diverse groups don't qualify themselves out, and increase diversity in that process, and also make your recruiters happy, as the relevance of those candidates will be, and the quality will be higher as they're good matches for the jobs they apply to. So this was the first persona, my candidate, and how we can support them in the process of applying. I will stop a second right here and check whether there's any question that I can answer right now before I go to the second persona, the recruiter. Anything in the chat?
No specific questions, Camelia.
Perfect. Thank you, Anil. So I'm going to go to my second persona, our recruiter, and the recruiter experience. So just as I already mentioned, when candidates apply, they just don't randomly apply for anything that's out there. So the relevance will increase if you were to plug in that intelligence to the career site. But in addition to that, Dave has already mentioned that you already might have a talent network. So every candidate that has ever applied, silver medalists, internal employees, alumni, you know, any group of candidates that you might already have in your talent pool. So looking at that talent pool every time you have a new job and coming up with an instant pipeline, resurfacing and surfacing matching profiles to, you know, use that wealth of information and that engagement of candidates that you might already have. So these people have already applied, they're already interested in your company, and they might already be qualified, interviewed. So why not use that as a first step? So using that AI-powered matching and ranking and instant pipeline once you create the job. Dave has also mentioned that we remove bias from the process by giving you the ability to mask profiles. So when you share with a hiring manager, you might want to mask the profile so there's no bias involved, such as names, genders, but also things like age or schools they have been to. So you get an honest feedback and unbiased feedback of, you know, should they proceed? Should you proceed with that candidate or not? And then there's also little things like scheduling options. You know, giving or embedding that functionality within the selection process, making it seamless for candidates, but also interviewers, and providing various options to do so. And these are the transactions that I'm going to go through and show you. Why is it important? Why does it matter? Well, you know, reusing your talent network will be a lot faster and easier to use, less time, but also less money spent on, and you know, I put in on this slide LinkedIn, but it can be any platform where you source from and try to fill the top of your funnel. So, you know, it doesn't have to be always external, always net new, but looking at the wealth of information that you already have. Then another important factor there is coping with the mass of information that you might have, you know, volume of candidates, especially during, but also after this crisis, making sure that from all those applicants that you get on a job, you focus on the right profiles and there's no manual work involved. Studies show that recruiters spend 6 seconds with a candidate resume, if they were to do it manually, to decide whether to proceed and advance the stage for them or not. Well, 6 seconds is not enough, especially if you leaf through a resume. And then obviously focusing on the right profiles and making sure that you don't miss out on great candidates. So let us again take a look in our application of how that looks. And first of all, I just want to mention that we can integrate wherever in the selection recruiting process you want us to integrate. So I will just, as a sample, start here on a SuccessFactors homepage, and you'll see this little icon here that says recruiter experience. So this starts from the homepage. However, it can be within the process wherever you need us to make that transition. We have a bidirectional sync of data between Eightfold and SuccessFactors. But before I go into the transaction, I just quickly want to show you how we make that match. So you've seen that within seconds, the candidate profile was matched to available jobs. And we don't do only a keyword match, but this match is done across various dimensions. So we don't look only, if I were to look here for analytics, skills, you will see that not only analytics, but also neighboring skills are taken into consideration. And that's looking at adjacencies and matching not only that particular skill to the job requirement, but also neighboring skills. This allows us to also hire for potential. So if someone has 5 of these, well, we pretty sure can say that they easily can acquire the skill that I'm looking for. So keep that in mind when we look at the matching and the percentage match, or the level of match, and see that in our instant pipeline as I described it. So let's go back and just go to our platform. I will close down this for a second. And here I am logged in as a recruiter. Again, you'll see this is myself. A classical way of looking at the information. These are the jobs that I'm currently hiring or sourcing for. Before I go and show you another way to look at the information, the job itself, the job per se, has been created within SuccessFactors and synced to our platform. And you see here when it was last synced, 35 minutes ago. This can be synchronous or asynchronous. Usually an asynchronous integration is used for the job itself. For the candidate, we use a synchronous integration. So let me go back. The position was created, approved in SuccessFactors, and then once approved, it's synchronized to our platform. So the classical way to look at information. Then we have a more persona-oriented, applicant-oriented way to look at information. And this makes sure that I am not missing out on great matches. So this is the screening dashboard, and it looks at a period of time and the number of candidates that I have not screened yet, and then the pending amount of days, which is basically configurable of how many days you know, this is greater than 14 days, it can be 3 or 2 or 10 days. So what does this actually help me do? First of all, it helps me focus on high matches, 4 and 5 stars. So I make sure I will focus on these candidates first. Low star matches, I can go and, you know, repurpose, reject if I needed to, but helps me focus on people who are actually great matches for the jobs. If I have diversity goals, I might want to go and check out, you know, diverse talent pools. So here I have 7 women that have applied. So I might want to focus on those first before I go and look at other groups. Or if I have internal employees or referrals, I might want to prioritize those when I look at my pipelines. So this is an additional way to ensure that I am looking at the right people and I'm not missing out on any great matches, but also I don't have them wait too long before I actually get in contact with them. So let us go back to my positions in the, you know, like a more classical view and show you how the match is done. And I'm just going to go back for a second to my Chief Technology Officer and take a closer look at this position. We have actually looked at the integration, but there's way more information here that is relevant and important for me, starting with an overview page that will tell me what happened so far, you know, the current pipeline that I have, and you'll see that it is diversity based. So just to make sure my candidate pool is balanced. Then on a time axis, how did my recruiting activities progress? The conversion rates since the position was created, etc. So this very first dashboard gives me a great overview of my overall talent pool and activities regarding that position. But first of all, when I create the position and synchronize it over, the AI would do a basic calibration. We call that auto calibration for the position in order to find that pipeline of leads. Now, as a human, I can control how the AI is giving me these results. You have to imagine that as a, you know, self-driving car, when you tell it, do you want to go by highway or do you want to go like the panoramic route? So basically telling the AI, what kind of results do you want to get? So first of all, options like you might have an intake meeting with your hiring manager where they say, I want a second XYZ. So that's where you can go and assign these profiles as ideal candidates. And by the way, these can be internal profiles or they can be external profiles. Then various other options to refine your requirements, things like skills that the person needs to have. So what exactly you're looking for. And when you're actually stating one of these skills, you will see that not only the skill itself will be considered, but also all these adjacent skills that we have talked about. So when the match is done, all these other criteria and dimensions are taken into consideration. The AI will help me do that by using this panel on the right side of my screen that will give me samples of ideal candidates, of related roles, of top skills in those positions, etc. And we know all of this, as Dave said, by analyzing 1.5, so almost 2 billion profiles and career trajectories of what's typical for those particular job requirements. So whilst I do this, you will see that the AI will give me indications of the types and the numbers of candidates. And if I were to go and say, hey, I want the CTO that's located in, why not, in Bangalore, you'll see how the number of candidates will then look and be gauged, targeted to that location. I can use one or multiple location, that location only. And additional information will be provided to me, this likely to respond. So people who have been interacting with me as an organization, but we also analyze the profiles of those people. And if they tend to change jobs every 2 to 3 years and they're close to that period of tenure, then you know, they might positively react to your contact, especially if you offer them like what's next for them, their next step in their development. So once I have done that, let's go and take a look at my candidates and see what other options do I have to make that even more targeted and use AI for that. You'll see that I have a whole arsenal, a whole list of tools that I can use at the left of my screen. So if I want to focus on current employees that have, you know, are good matches for the jobs to promote from within, I can do so. We have that likely to respond that we already talked about, but maybe I want not only people who are capable of doing the job, and you'll see their capability of doing the job is represented by this stack ranked list and match. And I'm also told why they are great matches. So you'll see that with this particular example, the skill relevance is high, then the title relevance, similar candidate relevance, the experience, etc. So I know exactly why this person is a great match. So their capability. But I also want people who have been great performers in the past, that being an indication for great performance going forward. And you'll see that the AI will tell me that compared to their peer group, they are top, I don't know, 20, 30, whatever. What does that exactly mean? And let's take a look at, so maybe I also want to use other factors here, things like diversity. I want to focus on great matching females with a strong career growth in the past. So you can use all of that in combination in order to fulfill your goals that you might have in terms of diversity, but also in combination with everything else. So let's take a look at this person, for example. What does that 30% of whatever mean? So, and Dave was already saying that we provide rich profiles for the candidates. So the candidate profiles are never stale. So not what the person has given to you 2, 3, 4 years ago when they applied, but they are enriched with currently available information, publicly available information for them. So here we go. This is an example of a rich profile. First of all, we will see this top 30. What exactly does that mean? It means that other people at HP, it took 7 years to move into a senior role. It took this person only 3.6 years. So this is an indication that she is a great performer. She moved faster through her career trajectory. So as I said, past performance as a good indication for performance going forward. I see the diversity option here. And then I see skills, and we'll see the validated skills that are required for my position, and the person has mentioned in their resume. We validate those skills, and you'll see that we validate them against her peer groups. So her peer group is people that have been working similar trajectories and similar jobs before. 100+ people have the same skill. So we're pretty sure and validate that for the person as well. We don't only look at currently stated skills in her CV, but we also infer skills based on her peer group. So you'll see that she has worked at this company and 20+ people have that skill. So we're pretty sure that she has it as well. So it's likely inferred that she has that skill as well. Obviously missing skills. So she does not mention the skills. Her peer group doesn't mention this skills. So something that you might want to watch out in the interview for. Now, the recruiting activity here will show us the integration to your ATS platform. So whatever happens here is synchronized, or on the recruiting platform is synchronized back and forth. So you'll never be overwriting basically the profiles. There's more information around that person, including previous employers. And if I look at the previous employers, you'll see that information, publicly available information of that employer is given to me. You know, who's that employer, how big are they well-founded, etc. But also regarding my recruiting activity from that previous employer. So you'll see I had, in the course of time, 200 candidates from that employer. I interviewed 24 and I hired 5, and those are the 5 people that I hired. So a very good indication for me, what kind of quality do I get from that previous employer, from that school? So I have a good picture of, you know, how is this candidate, who is this candidate, and is that career trajectory relevant for me or not? Now, once I have created, see, my leads pipeline has gone down to 43, a manageable number of people that I want to start interacting with. And here again, individually or in bulk, I can contact them and invite them to apply, for example, or start, you know, interacting. So here's an outreach option. The communication is all templated. We can enable follow-up so you don't miss out on engaging that candidate. Also, what I can do is share these candidates with a hiring manager. And when I do that, I use a feature that is called masking. So masking will take out anything that, you know, where the hiring manager could relate to the gender, the name of the candidate, but also things like schools that can, you know, infer the gender, or if someone has been to a college that's a girls' college only. So that can be all removed. So I will get an unbiased feedback from my hiring managers. So this is one option of how I can use masking. However, I could use masking generally to mask even in the pipeline the candidate names, and as I said, schools, also age, to ensure that even earlier in the process, bias is removed. So once I have, shared, contacted, and you'll see that I have some 2 candidates that I've already contacted in the past. I have all the options that I need in order to, for example, schedule them in for interviews. And this is a nice and easy way to do it. It can be physical or virtual. As you'll see that I have conferencing options here, or something that I use internally. Then when I schedule, I can use availabilities of the interviewer. If I have agreed on a specific time with them, I can do that. Or I can use AI to have the candidate book themselves into available interviewing slots that are synchronized to the interviewer's calendar. So nice and easy way to book them from within the process into my interviews. And also, if I wanted to advance the stage for them, and these are again synchronized with your ATS platform with SuccessFactors, mirroring your selection funnel. So once I have, or I would bring them into a recruiting screen stage, the synchronization would happen bidirectionally with the ATS platform, so they will be in the same stage of the process. So that was a quick run through the recruiter persona and how that instant pipeline, how I can, control what results the AI is given to me, what types of results I'm looking for, so the AI can also learn, and how I can focus but eliminate bias from the process when I'm looking at my pipeline and determining how I want to proceed with my candidates. I'll stop for a second right here. Any questions that I can answer right now?
Amelia, there are a lot of questions, but nothing in specific to the demo. So we are answering the questions as much as possible, and we'll take them in Q&A. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. So last but not least, the third persona that we want to look at is our employees. So once we hired, we also want people to see options within the organization and see their roadmap, their development, their potential development within the org. So again, we have those current and rich profiles, not only for external candidates, but also for internal employees. And we can use those in a short run to promote internal mobility, but also in a mid to long run to predict their potential and their next 1, 2, 3 roles. And then not only from an employee perspective, this is important because it enhances retention and satisfaction, but also from an employer business perspective, it helps upskill and reskill the workforce to meet business transformation and digitalization challenges. So let's take a look at an example of how that could look from an employee perspective. And here I am, this is actually me, and this is my profile that I have created by uploading my resume. So this is a simple upload action that I've taken. However, if your employees do have profiles in SAP SuccessFactors, think of that bidirectional synchronization. We can take those profiles over, synchronize to our platform, and employees can opt in and add to their profiles. Typically, you know, they might not have a photo that they might want to add, but also skills that they can add to. Typically, they might not have projects, so projects that might be relevant for them. Or if you integrate to a learning platform, any learning history courses that they have taken that are relevant for their profiles. So just as I said with external candidates, this will be enriched with currently available information. And actually the platform has done that for me. So when I uploaded my resume, if you take a look at my resume, you will see that the last job that I mentioned is actually my last job and not the job that I am currently in. So a very nice way to, you know, an easy way to have employee current profiles and use information where they actually tend to update. So you have the most current info, not only for external candidates, but also for your employees on the platform. Now, why should they do that, you might ask? Well, because at every given point in time, we match in employee profiles to available jobs. So if you have an initiative to promote internal mobility, here are the jobs that I am a great match for. And if I look at one of these jobs, by the way, I forgot to say, there's preferences that I can state. You know, what jobs do I prefer, what skills, etc. And then there's also alerts that I can set in order to be alerted when such a job would be available. When that is the case, I can go and view the details of that job and see how I match. So I kept it simple here. You'll see that the blue ones are skills that I have. This one will be a skill that I would have to acquire in order to be a perfect match for that job. And how do I do that? There's prescribed learning at the bottom here that will help me fulfill those gaps or fill those gaps by using this learning. So you'll see that employees will not only be shown what's available for them today, but also how can they upskill themselves, reskill themselves in order to meet the requirements of those jobs. So this is what's available today. If I look in the future and, you know, what's next for them, what would be potentially their next career step, there's this career planner that we make available. And on this career planner, these are potential future roles. And as I said, and Dave said, we infer those from the billions of career trajectories that we have been using and are using to train the AI. So typical next steps for me would be account management, and I might be interested in this global account manager role. So if I'm looking at this role, first of all, I will see people in my organization that are already in that role. So I might want to select 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 mentors in order to develop into that role. And then I can compare my profile to theirs, see what the skill gaps are. So here's my skill gaps that I might have. If, you know, I think I have 1 or 2 of those, I can go and update my profile here, but also recommended learning, prescribed learning in order to meet the requirements of that job. So again, what do I need to do in order to develop into my next role? So offering employees a perspective, offering them currently available, but also future objectives to develop into. So that was a quick overview of the employee persona and their profiles, short, mid, and longer term development options. And this concludes actually my demo. And again, I will ask, is there anything that I can answer right now?
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi. So this is Richa from Mahindra. I had a question that you suggested for this particular role. There is a possibility of suggesting the developmental courses for any particular role. So are these courses only education, or is there any exposure and experience item also that we can suggest?
So that depends on the types of courses that you have on your learning platform. So we don't manage these courses, they come from your learning platform. And on your learning platform, you might have educational courses, but you might also have on-the-job training or shadowing. So that all depends on the type of learning that you're managing on your learning platform.
Sure, thank you. Thank you. That answers my question.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the question.
Can you stop sharing? Let me just start bringing up Ashu's slide while you answer your questions. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dave. Yes, so friends, good afternoon to you all, and thank you for making time for this discussion. We really appreciate this. And I also thank you to those who have already reached out to us on LinkedIn while in the course of this discussion. And I'm really thrilled to see the kind of the Q&A that's going on, and I really appreciate the line of thought over there. I'll try and make the next 10 minutes very, very practical for you. And I'm assuming that many of us have touched recruitment in the past, at some point in our careers. And if not, we have been involved perhaps as hiring managers or candidates, and we can really relate to that experience. If you can take the next page, please, Dave. Thank you. So let's look at the first line itself. You would hear people making comments like, are recruiters really using the platform? And I mean the ATS. Now let's take a moment to think about, what does a recruiter do in a day? Now, especially let's say in COVID times, the number of applicants could be there in hundreds on each of the jobs that they are managing. They are managing about 30, 35, 40 jobs for, let's say, their company. And on top of it, they have to ensure screening of candidates. They have to do scheduling of interviews, rolling out offers, negotiations, and then chasing after candidates till the point that they have joined. And in between, you have business manager reviews and talent acquisition head reviews, and a whole lot of stuff that's happening, within the organization. Plus, of course, a small thing called as COVID. Now, with all this that is happening in our life, there is a poor thing called as a talent acquisition head, which I was some time back in Tata Communications, who has to manage the platforms, manage efficiencies, cut down cost, and at the same time, you are looking at how to give a great experience to hiring managers, to candidates, and leverage technology in those platforms. At the end of the day, you also got to meet up with auditors and show them data. The first question they will ask is this data system generated or coming from Excel sheets? So here is some of the things that you should be looking out for. And if you can click once, please. Here you go. So imagine the situation here of a hiring manager who first creates a requisition, which is in SuccessFactors, that I believe most of us are using already. And having done that, the integration that we have between SuccessFactors and Eightfold is that all requisitions start reflecting in Eightfold instantaneously. So the integration is really complete and thorough. The next thing that, and also these are the questions that have come up in the chat window earlier. If you can click once, please, Dave. Yeah, thank you. So every company has their own database of resumes. It could be a few 100,000 to a few millions. right? And they could be aging 2 years, 3 years or more. So while the sourcing pipeline is on, as you see in the sourcing of profiles bucket in SuccessFactors, which means whether you have RCM, you have RMK, you have various other sources, for example, agencies, your career site, your job boards, referrals, and of course, internal applicants. But what happens is that the moment a requisition is created, the algorithm is going to pull up CVs, which are already sitting in your database, in your talent pool, and put them forward in front of the recruiter and the hiring manager, right? And so you already have maybe 5, 10, 30, 40, 50, depending upon the depth of the database that you have created. And those are really available to you upfront. And along with that, in the coming days, as you add more CVs from other sources, they will only make the calibration and the matching done by the algorithm, recommend those profiles to hiring managers. So this is to the second point that we saw above that says, do we have, first of all, internal database having desired resumes? And you'd be surprised that there is a whole lot of wealth of information that's held up over there, which can be absolutely unleashed with the help of AI, especially Eightfold AI, which as a matter of fact doesn't really care much about a Boolean string match. It is a very, very highly advanced neural network based technology that does a match between skills of roles and skills of candidates, right? And that's how we are complementing an action between SuccessFactors and Eightfold. Now, the recruiter has received the CVs and wants to start really screening them out. So already that list has been rarefied by Eightfold. So you don't have to look through hundreds and thousands, right, of resumes. The algorithm is going to, like Camelia showed a little while back, show you the star rating, which is our recommendation, which can actually help recruiters a great deal in looking at quality resumes. The next step that Camelia also covered was that in case diversity is, and it is for many organizations these days, a very powerful objective that they are working on. And it definitely was for me when I was a part of the talent acquisition team at Tata Communications. And I think the team that I had over there, they did an awesome job of, hugely improving the diversity metric. That was basically the new hire women mix coming into the organization, which helped the company, get a lot of awards like Great Places to Work, etc., etc. Avatar, and over the past 4 years, if I may say, consecutively. So a powerful statement over here. If the next click, please. Now imagine at each stage, whatever action is happening. So there is an L1 interview, then there is an L2 interview, and then there is an HR interview. Each stage, there is a corresponding bucket in SuccessFactor where the data is moving between Eightfold and SuccessFactors on a real-time basis. So if you are, for example, having your own dashboards, which you are taking from the SuccessFactors system, right? And from there itself, you can start getting real-time data. And at the end of the day, when the offer is released, could you please click, Dave? Thank you. And one more. So here is what is happening. The moment an offer is released, there is an updation happening with the CRM, right? And other downstream processes like background check, onboarding, induction can start off immediately. And practically this is the aha moment for any recruiter or a TA head, who can extract data real time online. Most importantly, it gets all recruiters working on a platform and away from Excel sheets, which is actually a nightmare for a head of TA or a head of HR, because they just do not know what's happening. What is the quality of my database, what is being used, not used, and they're completely blindsided. And the day a recruiter says that, okay, thank you so much, I want to move on. And that's where the alarm bells go ringing in the organization, as they just don't know what they will do without that resource, right? So that's extremely useful for the heads of TA and heads of HR. Now, what's happening really, and I mentioned about this a little while back, there is a real-time data movement between ATS and Eightfold, which allows you data analytics and reporting. Then you have discussions with auditors and your leadership, etc., happening. A very simple, intuitive process that allows for, it actually cares for the hiring manager, the employees who are applicants, let's say IJP applicants, and candidates, and even the recruiters. Most importantly, the recruiters, the ones who had that ton of work on their hands earlier, right? And making their life simpler. And lastly, this integration between SuccessFactors and Eightfold is really smooth and complementing in nature. And of course, like I mentioned to one of the chat window discussions, the engagement is continuously happening through auto notifications. So if you have candidates sitting out there that you want to reach out to through a campaign, well, we can do that for you. Right. So, I again thank you. So many of the questions, exciting questions, and Raj, Nilesh, and there are so many of them really, and we would like to now take them on from here onwards.
All right. Thanks, Ashish. David, sorry to keep you waiting, but you can share your screen and you're on.
Yeah, no problem. No problem at
Thank you so
all.
much.
Let me just quickly share. Are you
So
guys able
just
to see my screen?
guys, just a time check. So we still have about 9 minutes left. So just please be mindful of the time
Sure.
as well.
Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is David Pektas. I'm the Valley Consulting Director here at Eightfold. I'll just quickly talk to you about what Valley Consulting is, and then go through the typical engagement steps we go through with our prospective customers, and then share with you just a couple of slides in terms of the final deliverable we end up presenting to our prospects. Yeah, so I'll probably take 3 to 4 minutes just to be respectful of your time. So in terms of Valley Consulting, what we essentially do is we provide complementary business consulting services to our existing as well as prospective customers in order to help them identify and subsequently quantify the economic and strategic value of the Eightfold platform. And we do that in a two-step process. The first step is what we call a case for change. This is where we would engage with our prospects in understanding what their business and talent related challenges are, and eventually help them quantify the value they can get from the platform in the form of a business case. And the second step is what we call value realization. This happens with with our existing customers after they have been live on the platform for about a year. And really, the only reason we do it is to make sure that we vet out the value we say that our customers will realize in the business case process. And in terms of how we like to engage, it's broken out here in terms of having 4 steps. We typically start out with a value, outside and value analysis. This essentially is based on publicly available information before we get a deep level of engagement to kind of hypothesize the kind of value customers can expect to see. And then we hold a discovery workshop with them alongside our solution consultants like Camellia, right? And then as a result of the engagement, then we will be able to show them a tailored demo and validate the first draft of their business case with them. And eventually, in the last but not the least step, we'll get to present the final version of the business case to their decision makers, whether it's a board of directors or C-level executives. So in terms of the business case outputs, so the business cases are made up of 3 key sections. The situation overview really is the strategic alignment. The Eightfold value talks about the value proposition at a high level, and the appendix is where we quantify the value in line by line detail. So in terms of the situation overview, right, this is just a detail of the challenges. So if you look at it, right, what I identify as the first one here was the fact that this prospect was having a problem with being able to fill the open requisitions quickly. So what was the associated business impact? Well, this is a professional services customer. They actually signed last week. But their specific business impact was reduced incremental revenue opportunity, right? And what Eightfold platform does, as Camille showcased, is the fact that we give you end-to-end visibility into your entire talent network so that you can hire the best talent quickly. And I'll just share one sample slide from the value section at a high level, right? So that example I gave you, that example challenge. So we quantified 5 areas of value here for this customer, but that example I just walked you through, the faster time to fill, right? That incremental revenue opportunity, we quantify that to be at $3 million recurring fully realized basis. And in terms of how we quantify that in the appendix section is on this slide. So this slide, it looks a little busy, but on the left-hand side, we quantify what the value is, and then what does third-party research say in terms of technology being able to deliver this kind of value. And on the right-hand side, we share some relevant eightfold capabilities that will enable the customer to get this value alongside with relevant metrics that existing customers are already realizing. One thing I want to point out here is that on this calculation side of the slide, all the numbers that you see are from the prospects' own numbers that we have validated with them. So, it's not like it's based on some hypothetical numbers. So that's the level of engagement we tend to get with our prospects, where we collect both the qualitative and the quantitative information. So, with that, I will stop sharing because we're coming towards the top of the hour. But if there are any questions after today, I'm happy to address them.
Yeah, David, I just wanted to kind of jump in and just say one thing about this presentation. This is really, really the key to success, what you just showed. In terms of recruiter efficiency, productivity gains, really having control on the cost, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you have to justify adding AI and how AI can kind of contribute to that. And a lot of the stakeholders that we deal with actually uses, to even go and get the funding they need to get AI implemented along with success factors, ATS, or when it's SAP, HCM, or HRIS. Am I correct in saying that?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Very key to get that modeling done. Mukesh, I think that's the presentation for us. We're 2 minutes away from top of the hour. Any questions or any last minute thoughts from you?
So I've just launched a poll. If everyone can actually answer the questions on the poll, that will be really great. And if there is anything that, if there is one thing that you take away from the entire presentation, would be great if you can share that on the chat, if there is any specific takeaway for you. And of course, I've shared the link for the WhatsApp group. So we kind of use that group as the central point of discussion. We kind of ask people to, also share about topics that are of interest that you want us to bring for the subsequent sessions, as well as all the recordings of the sessions are kind of posted on the group as well, so that you can download and share with your team. So if you're already not part of that group, I would strongly recommend that you join the group. Same way, please feel free to share that with your colleagues whom you think can benefit from being part of that group. And yeah, so if there are any questions, maybe we have about a couple of minutes left. If there are any questions that you want the team, Eightfold team, to address, please ask them now, either on the chat or maybe you can unmute yourself and ask the question as well. Please do give your feedback. It helps us bring a good, relevant content which you will find useful. So that's where we are. We are here to serve you and your needs so that you get better at doing what you're doing in your organizations. So Delighten, Vinod, would you like to add something and conclude?
Hey, thanks, Mukesh. This is Vinod here. So we've had a very good turnout today. I saw the total count exceeding almost 90 at one point of time. So the format definitely seems to be striking a chord with our customers. Look forward to more of these on a monthly basis. And thanks to the Eightfold team for taking out 90 minutes from their schedules to talk about their solution and the value to our customer base. Delighten?
Thanks a lot for everyone.
Delighten, your voice is very, very feeble.
Oh, sorry. I think my microphone was not sorry. Okay, so certainly, I think it was a very good turnout and as well as very informative for our customers because this is the area where I think most of the customers are looking for some intervention from AI, and I think this really complements with the overall plan which we have going together. So I think I'm happy that we had a very good conversation. So look forward for the feedback from the customers as well. I have to drop my email ID, so you can write one-on-one to me and even request what is the next session would you like to have so that we can take it forward. Thanks
Yeah,
a
so by
lot,
the way,
Eightfold team.
sorry, go on, Delighten, sorry.
Hey, no, nothing. I think I just wanted to thank Eightfold team because they have been connecting at midnights and all for this particular. So certainly thankful for
No,
having this
absolutely.
session organized.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Mukesh.
just so that everyone knows, this meeting happens every first Wednesday, the first Wednesday 11 a.m. every month. So you can actually, if you want, you can actually add it to your calendar. Every month of the first Wednesday, 11 a.m.
Great.
For 90 minutes.
So Mukesh, Vinod, and Delight, and I really wanted to thank you on behalf of the Eightfold team for giving us the opportunity. Really, really appreciate it. And Anil is right there in India, as well as Ashish. Feel free to reach out to them with any follow-up questions. And thank you so much for giving us the time and the
Thank
opportunity.
Okay.
Thank you
thank you.
all.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thanks
friends.
everyone.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.
Thanks for having us
Bye-bye.
here.
Yeah.
Thanks. Take
Thanks.
care.
Bye.
Bye. See you.
Bye-bye.